Welcome top news today.
Tallahassee. The rigid partisan lines that have long deadlocked the national debate over gun violence have shown signs of cracking in the Florida statehouse in the immediate aftermath of the mass shooting that killed 17 students and faculty at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Republican leaders have been quietly working with Democrats from the school community in heavily liberal Broward County on new laws that they hope to pass before the March 9th close of the legislative session. These include new age restrictions on semi-automatic rifle sales and new powers for police to confiscate guns from people deemed a danger by the courts. The bipartisan proposals stop short of the demands of many student survivors of last week's shooting, who have been busing to the state capitol to demand a complete ban on the sale of assault weapons. The Republican-dominated Florida House on Tuesday handily defeated a Democratic effort to open debate on an assault weapons ban, as several students watched tearfully from the gallery. But the new proposals represent a sharp break from the state's traditional response to mass casualty gun violence. Though a contested state in presidential elections, Florida has a long history as a laboratory of gun rights legislation pushed by the powerful National Rifle Association. The state spearheaded efforts to establish concealed carry permits and a stand your ground law, which protects citizens who use deadly force if they feel they are in imminent danger. Many state leaders, including Republican Governor Rick Scott, boast high NRA approval ratings. Senate Republican leaders met Wednesday with a group of about 50 surviving students of the Parkland shooting who had traveled to the state capitol. One student denounced the NRA as murderers. Several said they had come to beg for changes to gun laws, and many broke into tears as they described the way the friends had been shot. "He was a boy who got shot in the head because of your laws," saying an 18-year-old boy can carry a military-grade weapon to kill, said Tyra Hemmons, 19, a senior who held a photo of her friend, Joaquin Oliver. She demanded several times that the lawmakers look her in the eye as they spoke, and they complied. In his introductory remarks, Florida Senate President Joe Negron choked up while recounting the funeral he attended Tuesday for Peter Wang, 15, another slain student. "We are here to listen to your concerns," he told the students. The lawmakers said they intended to reconsider a state law that allows 18-year-olds to buy assault rifles in Florida, even though the age for purchasing a handgun is 21. Negron also said the state would replace the school building where the shooting happened with a memorial. Florida took no legislative action on guns after a shooting attack on an Orlando nightclub killed 49 in 2016, or the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport that killed 5 in 2017. In the current legislative session, there have been Republican proposals to allow guns in courthouses and airports, as well as proposals to allow the carrying of handguns without a permit. The outlines of a possible new agreement emerged in the 2 days immediately following the Parkland shooting, during bipartisan tours of the crime scene at the school. Local Democratic legislators invited the state's Republican leadership to walk the blood-stained halls and hear firsthand from first responders the impacts of the attacks. For some involved in the process, the fact that Democrats now have a seat at the table to discuss gun violence is itself a breakthrough, which could have implications outside the borders of the state, as the rest of the country grapples with growing concern over gun violence. This week, President Trump, a staunch NRA ally, has begun talking about potential gun control measures. "The change that we are on the cusp of making in the state of Florida has implications for the rest of the country," said Rep. Kristen Jacobs, a Broward County Democrat who represents the families of the fallen in Parkland and helped to arrange the tours of the school. "It's not my way or the highway." In an acknowledgement of the efforts, State House Speaker Richard Corcoran ended the House session Tuesday with a public call for more work across party lines. "Continue to have a dialogue," he told the Democrats and Republicans in his chamber. "The goal would be that we would come up with a very substantive bipartisan bill." In addition to raising the age for buying an assault rifle to 21, the lawmakers have discussed adding a 3-day waiting period for the type of semi-automatic rifle used in the school shooting. At the urging of local sheriffs, they are also exploring ways to strengthen the ability of law enforcement to take weapons away from those deemed a danger by courts. And they plan to establish a training program that would allow teachers and faculty to qualify to carry guns at schools. The lawmakers have also agreed to push for more funding to improve infrastructure at schools around the state, as well as funds to replace the school building where the shooting took place. Several participants warned that it was still possible that the efforts collapse. Scott, a likely U.S. Senate candidate who held listening sessions on guns Tuesday, has been informed of the negotiations but has not publicly taken a position. The NRA is unlikely to weigh in publicly on the proposals until they are released in legislative form, which could come as early as Thursday. Negron has said he hopes for a committee vote on the plans early next week. "We are in a very vulnerable place right now," said Senator Lauren Book, the Democratic leader who represents Broward County and has been organizing the bipartisan outreach. "There is very little margin for error. There is not a lot of time. And I think there are some who are incendiary and want to throw stones and create havoc because they have their own agendas." Other groups pushing for more gun control, who had been playing defense for much of the legislative session, expressed optimism Tuesday that something could happen, given the visibility students have brought to the issue. "Students are what is different this time," said Kate Kyle, the leader of the Tallahassee chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, which has been providing water and snacks for students visiting the state capitol. "As the grown-ups, it's on us." Potential bipartisanship began to take root during the emotional tours that lawmakers took of the school site in recent days. "They needed to see it to understand," said Book, who took photos of the carnage's bloody aftermath as she keeps on her phone to illustrate the graphic horror of the event. Among the Republicans who made the pilgrimage in those first days were Speaker Corcoran, the Senate President Negron, the future Senate President Bill Galvano, and the House Appropriations Committee Chairman Carlos Trujillo. They looked through the small glass windows in the classroom doors where shots had been fired at students taking cover in the locked classrooms. They learned about the resiliency of hurricane windows to a bullet from an AR-15 style rifle. They heard concerns from law enforcement about the difficulty of removing guns from people they believed to be a danger. They heard the pleas of school administrators to demolish the building where the shooting occurred, as well as requests from victim families that their identities be shielded from state public records laws. They ultimately agreed to try to get something done together, even if it meant steering clear of the most explosive debates. "Being righteous isn't enough," Jacobs said. "I've been referring to this as a sort of a trust fall, to do something now but also opening the door to future conversations."